What if I told you that when a narcissist loses an empath, something shifts in the spiritual realm that they'll never recover from? Stay with me, because what Carl Jung discovered about spiritual energy exchange will completely change how you understand cosmic justice. Carl Jung said that every relationship operates on an energetic level beyond what we can see. And nowhere is this more evident than when a narcissist finally loses their empath. Here's the truth most people don't see. When an empath finally walks away, they're not just leaving a relationship. They're severing what Jung called an archetypal bond that the narcissist has been feeding on for years. And the spiritual consequences, according to Jung's research, absolutely devastating. Listen carefully to what Jung discovered happens in those first moments. The narcissist feels it immediately, not emotionally. They're incapable of that depth. But Jung identified this as a disturbance in what he termed the collective unconscious. It's like a spiritual vampire suddenly cut off from their source. The energy they've been siphoning, that pure life force the empath provided, simply vanishes. And here's what will shock you. Jung explained they can't understand why they suddenly feel so empty. But this is just the beginning of what Jung called their spiritual unraveling. According to Carl Jung's work on archetypes, empaths carry what he identified as the light-bearer energy. They're natural conduits of what Jung termed numinous power, divine energy, unconditional love. The narcissist, operating from their wounded shadow self, has been draining this light to fill their own spiritual void. But here's the twist that changes everything. When the empath leaves, they take their light with them, and the darkness that remains. Jung said it's unbearable for the narcissist's psyche. Carl Jung observed that the narcissist experiences what he called enantiodromia, the tendency for things to turn into their opposite. They spiral into what spiritual teachers call the dark night of the soul. But here's the difference Jung identified. For most people, this darkness leads to awakening. For the narcissist, it leads to desperation. They try to find another source, another empath to drain. But something has shifted in the universe. Jung discovered that the same tactics that once worked suddenly don't. It's as if the spiritual realm itself has marked them. Here's where it gets absolutely terrifying for them. Carl Jung said that when an empath breaks free, they undergo what he called individuation at the spiritual level. All that energy they poured into the narcissist comes flooding back, multiplied. They experience what Jung termed the return of the self. Their intuition sharpens to what Jung identified as almost supernatural perception. Their boundaries become what he called psychologically and spiritually impenetrable. Their light burns so bright that it actually repels darkness. Jung discovered they become spiritually untouchable. But the narcissist? According to Jung, they're experiencing the opposite phenomenon. Carl Jung understood that energy must flow in balance, what he called the principle of compensation. The narcissist has been taking without giving for so long that they've created what Jung identified as a spiritual debt in the collective unconscious. And when the empath leaves, that debt comes due. Suddenly, everything they've done in the shadows comes into the light. Their manipulation tactics stop working. People start seeing through their persona mask. Opportunities dry up. Jung said it's not coincidence. It's what he termed synchronicity in reverse, spiritual law in action. Listen to what Jung discovered happens next, because this is where the tables turn completely. The empath, now free, begins to rise. Jung called this the emergence of the true self. Their creativity explodes. What Jung termed meaningful coincidences multiply. The right people appear at the right time. Doors open effortlessly. It's as if the universe itself is celebrating their liberation. They're experiencing what Jung identified as divine alignment with the collective unconscious. Everything they were blocked from, while with the narcissist, suddenly becomes accessible. Meanwhile, according to Carl Jung's observations, the narcissist spirals. They can't figure out why nothing works anymore, why their charm falls flat, why people are suddenly unavailable, Why life feels harder than ever. Here's the spiritual truth Jung revealed they'll never understand. They're experiencing the karmic rebound of every hurt they inflicted, every tear they caused, every piece of light they tried to extinguish. But here's the part that will absolutely blow your mind about Jung's discoveries. Carl Jung said the empath doesn't need to seek revenge, because what he called the self regulates spiritual balance automatically. Jung's research showed that every act of manipulation, every lie, every moment of cruelty gets recorded in what he identified as the psychic structure of reality. And when an empath finally says enough and walks away, they activate what Jung termed a spiritual threshold. Justice becomes inevitable. The narcissist might try to hoover them back, but here's what Jung discovered is different now. The empath has awakened to what Jung called their archetypal wholeness. They see the narcissist not as powerful, but as what Jung identified, a tragically fragmented soul. They recognize the attempted manipulation for what Jung said it is, a desperate shadow self trying to steal light because they refuse to integrate their own darkness. And this is the final spiritual truth Carl Jung revealed that changes everything. Jung discovered that when a narcissist loses an empath, they lose their last chance at what he termed genuine individuation. Because empaths, with their unconditional love and infinite patience, represent what Jung called the anima or animus, a mirror to the soul, a final opportunity to face their own shadow and choose healing. But by betraying that gift, by exploiting that pure heart, Jung said they seal their own spiritual fate. Carl Jung's lifetime of research proved this. The empath ascends through individuation. The narcissist descends into fragmentation, not because of punishment, but because of what Jung identified as natural spiritual law, operating through the collective unconscious. Light rises. Darkness, left to itself, consumes itself. This is what Carl Jung discovered happens spiritually when a narcissist loses an empath. And once you understand Jung's truth, you'll never question whether walking away was the right choice. It wasn't just right. Jung said it was spiritually ordained. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear Jung's wisdom. And remember, your liberation isn't just personal. According to Carl Jung, it's cosmic.